Buenos dias, mi amigos. Bienvenido. Sesión 122. Dynasty Junkies. What's going on, guys? It is the Thursday night game. We had Mexico City game last week, which was a lot of fun. It's craziness, awesome atmosphere. We've got the World Cup going on. These are great times. So episode 122 of the Junkies tonight. You got your man here, Scott Sidlow, hosting, and part of the DAP Network, and my other DAP Network homie, Rocky at Dynasty FF Addict on Twitter. What's up, Rocky? What's going on?
Hey, Scott, happy to be here tonight. I feel like it's been a while since me and you were on together. So I always love doing the shows with you. Andrew's great, but I feel like I do way more Andrew shows than Scott's shows for some reason. So, and I'm also glad you decided to take the lead tonight, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, we had a week off last week, so I mean, I could put in a half effort here or there, But we did talk not too long ago because I was on Trade Addicts, so
that's true. That's true.
It's not that we haven't been on that long, just other
on
parts
Junkies,
of the network.
Yeah.
And our host tonight, or our guest tonight, should be the host because he made a bet and forced himself onto the show after he already had like a 94% chance to win, and then said, hey, I'll bet I'm gonna win this week against you. And the little odds thing where it says like your percentage to win. And it was like, he was up by like 150 points and I had like my kicker still, and we didn't even have kickers. So, yeah. But anyway, John McGlynn at John McGlynn 75 from the Commissioner Evaluation Show on the P2W Fantasy Network. What's going on, brother?
You got this. It was twice as sweet because now you were planning on having me host on a Thursday night so you could actually watch football for a night, and you got screwed into doing a podcast on top of it. You lost the bet twice now, so this is great. Thanks for having me on, guys. This is great. I watch a show. This is my third time on the show. Listen to it all the time. You guys are fantastic. Andrew's great. I miss him tonight, but we'll figure it out. Well, you got me here instead of Andrew, so you're kind of screwed.
I told John I was happy to finally be on. Like the first two times he was on, it was either I think Scott solo or Scott and Andrew. Yep. So I'm happy to get to talk to John on a podcast here.
Absolutely.
Got a little bit of everybody. So yeah, there you go. We're gonna have to get you a jacket at some point. Like SNL. I think once you get on 5 times, you get the jacket. So
I got a size 7 7/8 head. So if I need a hat, you gotta get
gotcha. Okay.
3 llamas to do it.
Speaking of sizing for accessories, jewelry, you do have my ring size from last season. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. All right.
You already got your ring, didn't you?
No, I don't have it.
It must be still in my.
I haven't seen you because I wasn't able to get to the. I was on vacation when we did the rookie draft.
So I commissioned a bunch of home leagues. That's what they're called, Mighty McGlynn Dynasty leagues. Scott's in one of my home leagues. And whoever wins, I take it out of my own personal money, and I buy everybody a championship ring with it. I ask what color you want, what kind of diamond you want in the middle of it. It's like a little Super Bowl version. Instead of having a trophy with people's names on there, all that kind of stuff. So Scott designed his own ring. The record's on there, his name, the league name, all that kind of stuff like that. It's a little thank you for being in my home leagues. It's nice having all the people from the Chicagoland area in these home leagues.
It definitely is. And of course, we end up having to do the rookie draft, the one 4-day period I'm out of town out of, the 365 days in a year. But okay, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out for next year. But you know what? I just traded my picks away in that league because I'm going to maybe try to make another run here. So, we'll see. But I'll be there regardless because that's what's fun.
I trade my picks away all the time. We're good.
Yeah, you never have any picks. So, oh, man. Actually, let me ask you about this. I do not have many Derrick Henry shares, so I just said screw it. I traded my first and second and Tyler Algier for Derrick Henry and OBJ just to have another body in there. So Rocky, what did you think about that trade?
I assume you're
I'm a contender,
contending team.
Yeah, defending champ. I'm pretty much guaranteed the playoffs because I'm locked in my division. I'm 3 games ahead, so I'm gonna make the playoffs regardless. So I might as well give it a run,
Yeah, I like that. I mean, everyone treats 2023 first like gold, but I mean, if it's going to be a late 23 first, I've been hearing more and more. It's been some people have been saying it in the Cool Trade Addicts Patreon chat, the Cool Kids Club, and Ryan McDowell on Trade Addicts was saying that maybe the 2023 class is not quite the amazingness we cracked it up to be. It's still a lot of good players in there, but it's maybe, especially at the back end of it, of the first, is going to be as much of a crapshoot as some other drafts. Not every guy is going to be, the golden stud that everybody thinks they're going to be from 1 through 12. So yeah, get those points, Henry. Henry's the RB3 on the year. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Get your guy, get a championship, and worry about the draft pick later.
John, what did you think when you saw that trade go through?
It was a perfect trade because Steven Johnson's in a he's got running backs and that's it. His team is garbage.
He needs to reload. Yeah,
he needed to reload big time, so it worked out great. Where he got some low first round draft picks. I don't like that. I'm looking at your team right now, and I hate that you only partially start your roster so like his whole thing's empty. I don't know. I got to go through his whole bench to find out like who his good players are. But
that's how I know what lineup I need to set.
He's got Josh Allen.
50 leagues, you got to do shit like that. All right?
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, your team is stacked, and now you got. There's no reason why you shouldn't go for win now players like Henry. It's all you need. I'm not even saying you're even a piece away. You're there already, and then adding Derrick Henry to the mix, King Henry, is just it's kind of like the push. I think P-Win's team is not doing too well right now anyway, so I think you might just walk in the championship again.
Yeah. And I mean, I look at it as I have Kyle Pitts and Rashad Bateman on IR, so I'm pretty much getting a first and second round pick next year,
right,
when they come back. So either way, I mean, and those guys I haven't been starting anyway. So,
and you're probably going to get a pretty good week out of them this week. My 10-1 Eagles, the one weakness they do have tends to be their run defense. So you're probably getting a very nice Henry game this coming week.
Yeah, try to get one of those higher seeds there, and I don't think I can get a bye, but that's fine. Just get me set up here, especially with Najee getting that injury too. So
I think
it was worth a shot.
The buy is huge because you get 4% of the league money buy-in for getting the buy, and then you get 4% of league buy-in for just winning your division. So you're already making, if you
that's
get
right.
that, it's 8% of the
making some money on winning the division at minimum. Yeah, true. I do like that payout system personally. And we do the fun thing that you taught me, this is where I learned this from, is the division draft, which I think is cool. And I've not heard many people talk about that in
Rocky,
all the podcasts that I listen to.
This division draft.
So yeah, John, if you explain what that is.
So it's like, remember you were in first grade or third grade and you were like the terrible athletes were in the corner over here. So the worse your team is, it's the worse your team is, the higher you get picked, kind of thing, because they want you to be in their division. So the 4 division winners have a snake style division draft, and the first pick is always the very last team, and the worst of the 4 division winners picks first. So whoever gets picked last is kind of like, they're the best of the teams that make the playoffs. So you never want to be the first round pick in a division draft because it's just like a laughing stock. Everybody makes fun of you. It's just more things to shame the league and make fun of each other with.
Yeah, I love that. The first league I ever kind of Twitter league, I recruiting people from Twitter, not like a home league, that it's a Breaking Bad themed league, and we have 2 divisions. More of my recent leagues that I did division lists, but that we do the same thing there. We have every February we do a draft the 2 divisions. The 2 division winners get to pick their teams, and the person who gets picked last tends to crow about it. Like, of course, I didn't, I'm at the end here, so.
That's fun. That's fun for sure. Yeah, no, I think it's a good time, especially when we all see each other in person. We do the rookie draft, and then we get to kind of shit on each other with that. So that's fun too. Yeah, but speaking of fun settings for your leagues, I mean, this is the time of year to kind of bring that up. Talk to your commissioners about things you want to implement for the future. I know right now we've had a lot of discussions for a handful of sleeper leagues where you can play against the league median. I think that should just be implemented in every league, to be honest with you, because I'm finding that, some people say, oh, it just helps the good teams. That's actually not true. It does it does benefit teams that do well, and maybe you just have a tough matchup. So if you're the second highest scoring team, you just happen to play the highest scoring team that week, you lost, right? I mean, it sucks. It's just bad schedule luck. But if you play against the league median and you're one of the top 6 scoring teams or top half, whatever your league is, you get that extra win. But it also helps when you're trying to lose, because I have a few leagues right now where I cannot lose. And it is bullshit, because my schedule luck is I just keep playing these teams that put up shit numbers. And I'm like almost in the playoffs in a league where I'm supposed to be tanking. Like, I legit thought I was going to have the 101 next year. And right now, looks like I'm going to be in the playoffs. So again, a league median would have helped me because I'm like the second lowest scoring team. I just, get everyone's lowest score each week, so I keep winning. It sucks.
What I'm hearing is Scott is like, I'm so good, even when I try and tank, I just make the playoffs.
No, that's one league. That's just one league. But I have a couple of leagues where, like, we'll talk about it a little bit later too. In a 1 quarterback league, it's imperative to get that 101, right? Because you want Bijan, right? In a super flex league, I'm not as worried about it. Like, just give me top 3 and I'm pretty happy. But it's frustrating when you have a league like that where you're literally trying to lose, and I'm seeing it happen to other teams too, not just my teams. And so the league median it helps teams that want to rebuild faster, and it helps those better teams, take advantage of being good teams and just having shitty luck. So it's just one little way to help balance things out. What other rule changes have you guys thought about or you want to implement in your leagues? Or John, what are you seeing in some of the leagues that you run? Everybody bitching and whining about some shit that, inevitably we all have to do it because we're just assholes.
That's the thing is, I commission a lot of leagues, and every once in a while, I start a new league every year, and it's all home league people, so we meet in person. So it's not like I'm getting like keyboard, warrior on me all the time. I'm getting people in my face like yelling at me about it. It's a whole different story. But
after a few drinks,
sometimes you mess up settings, like you forget to do like an extra bonus or something like that, and they're like, "This is BS. Why does you get double points for this?" Like, okay, timeout. We'll change the setting. It's very hard to change scoring settings. That's the hardest thing to everything's got to be 75% approved for any kind of scoring. But you can't go from like non-PPR to PPR. You can't you can't go from non-super flex to super flex without like a 2 or 3 year change. So
redraft.
But if you want to expand the rosters 2 or 3 spots, you got to vote on that. If you want to cut the rosters back, and we had to have a big situation about when COVID happened. Now everybody's bitching about there's too many people. Remember what Brian the other day was yelling at you about? There's too many people on these rosters. This is BS. It's 12-team, 30-man rosters with a 10-team IR or 10-player IR because of COVID. And now everybody wants to say, like, this is crap. There's no waiver wire. There's no waiver wire for 1 week in 3 years. And the guy's like, this is such BS. This league's too big. Like, shut up, man. Like, this is the one time that there's never been a waiver wire because it was a bad week and everybody, I don't know what's going on. And it was like, and he's like throwing a hissy fit for a half hour, but he's kind of like, oh, it's fine the way they are. And he kept spouting back at everyone. It's like, and then the next week it was back to normal. It was 5 or 6 people, whatever,
exactly.
So be it. But you can't. Exactly. I understand that. Some people have IR spots where you could put, hurt out players, IR, the pup, the whole deal. Like out players that you shouldn't be able to put out players on IR. Now Jeff Bell had a thing the other day. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter or not. He had something that said that you should be able to put a player on IR like teams do. You should be able to pick 1 or 2 players you want to.
Yeah, I saw that.
4 weeks at a time.
I saw that.
Yeah, I think that was more a redraft thing he was saying.
Yeah. It's still
I'm not a big fan of it, but it is what it is. It's stuff like that. That's where you have votes for. That's where you sit around, drink some beers, talk about the league.
That's right.
That's what it's for. To vote is if it's 75%, 8 of 12 people, whatever, or whatever it may be. I'm not that good at math, so I got to figure that out with my toes, with my shoes off. But you got to vote on those things. So I understand like moving IR spots now back to 4 or 5 or whatever they were before COVID.
Right.
Because that if you have people go on there the first day they leave 1 spot open on purpose. And the first day of waivers, IR guy, poof, IR guy, poof, IR guy, poof. So
I don't have a problem with that. I have unlimited IR in all my dynasty leagues that I commish because I don't, if they want to do that, oh well, then they can pick up a whole bunch of guys in IR. What's the harm?
Eventually they come off IR and then you have to drop somebody. So,
wait a second. It is a problem because now you have a 40-man roster or a 50-man roster, unlimited IR. That's like
Beautiful.
an extra 20. You have a 50-man roster. Nobody else has a 30-man roster.
Nobody
That's
has
crap.
50-man rosters in my league. They
I would.
don't IR 20 guys. So
I would IR
look.
people in baseball drafts just because.
The thing I've been trying to do, I don't think I got it passed in any league, was abolish taxi squads. Because I don't see the point. The idea was to expand rosters and abolish taxi squads.
Yeah.
And the main reason I did that is I'm a big, and you guys may hate this. I know people either tend to, like me, love doing draft order this way or hate it, but I do potential points for all my leagues. And you can dodge potential points by sticking productive rookies on your taxi squad.
In
so
MFL,
on MFL, yeah. So I hate, and all my leagues are on MFL. So I hate when people do that. And I tried in every league to get a rule change that I proposed, and I think I have a 4-man taxi squad in almost all the leagues I run, and we'll just, instead of 30 or 32 or 28, whatever it is, we'll increase it to, by 4 to 32. You can still have those players.
Cool,
they're just going to be on your active roster.
Yeah.
And it didn't get passed in any league. So everybody was not cool with that. But it makes sense to me. Like, why do you need it to be that specific taxi spot? Why can't you just have the extra 4 rounds? And it's because you want to dodge the damn potential points. That's why.
And
is there any other reason to not just do it the way I just said? Like, why not just have?
I think.
I mean, you could. I guess one
part of it is
4 extra like actual veterans if you wanted to do that, but I don't care about that.
That's the thing. Part of it is to bring the value to the rookie picks, because like you have somewhere to stash them for a couple years that you can't put other players there, right? I mean, that's only for first, maybe second year players.
But if you have 34 roster spots, you can.
Yeah, you can. You can. Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like those spots you're going to, because they're there, and that's the only thing you can put there.
Yeah.
Whereas in a normal spot, anybody can go there. But I do want to point out in Tecmo Bowl, I do have 40 players on my roster, thanks to your unlimited tax or IR. So thank you for that.
See, like
it doesn't matter. I'm the 3rd worst team.
I don't have
league,
a problem with that.
It doesn't matter,
because the one thing I can't stand too, and I think you were kind of saying it, like I can't stand the people who are like, the waiver wire sucks. Yeah, it's Dynasty. The waiver wire is supposed to suck. You're supposed to have 30 to 35 man rosters. You're not supposed to have anything on waivers. You need to make trades or draft. That's what Dynasty is.
That's right. 100%. Yeah, it's
some people just hate trading. They're like, I don't want to trade. That's fine. And then they get pissed off when other people do make trades. Like, whoa.
Maybe they just
play
offers.
redraft.
Right.
Yeah, just
and
play
don't
redraft.
trade.
Yeah, exactly. No, that was my whole point when that got brought up in our league, was like, if you want to play in a shallower league, like I understand there is a different strategy to that, right? Because then it's different. So it's a different league. It's a different format. So just join a different league. Like, don't change our league.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make any sense. This is the league. You joined this league. This is what it is. Don't change the damn league. Just
and like I said, to me that's almost what Dynasty is, or supposed to be, is that it's supposed to be drafting and trading. You're not supposed to be. I literally, and you probably do this a lot too, Sky, literally for weeks sometimes ignore the waiver wire because we're in so many leagues, but also because there's nothing there. Like,
I wish I could do that. I really, 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 I hurt my team so bad sometimes when I do the waiver wire stupid shit, I hate it, and it burns me all the time, and I'm like, I should just ignore it altogether.
I literally don't think I put a waiver claim in like a month.
Speaking of that, what is with like the fab shaming that we have going on? Like this week was literally my entire timeline. All it was people like, how much did they spend on Zonovan Knight? And you're like, who fucking cares?
That was me.
Who cares? Like, what are you gonna do? Do you have a trade deadline? Did it pass? Oh, great. Well, guess what? Your only option is to add a player through waivers. I don't give a shit if you spent 1,000 fab on it. I don't care. It doesn't. What does it matter? But literally every league had like, just throughout the season, I've seen it too. But this week was especially bad. Like just fab shaming. It's what
$867 for Zonovan Knight, and then I got it for a 4th round pick. Like 5 hours later.
See, and I would trade 867 fab for a 4th round pick in every league that I'm in.
Like,
every year, week 1, I'd have
867 fab, or
exactly. So who cares? Like, why? And it's just so funny because I have some leagues that are like every guy that gets picked up, and like it's a sleeper league, so they'll get like the poop emoji, and like there'll be like 8 of them after like every waiver claim, and it's like what? Who cares? It's fat. Like, if you guys think it's so valuable, trade me for it. You can have it. You can have it all.
And especially if it's a deep dynasty league, like we were just saying, like it's week 12 or it's going into week 13. Like, how much more do you think you're really going to need that fab anyway, if at all? So.
It doesn't. You don't get to take it with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Very few leagues it carries.
Jeff Saturday. Right. Jeff Saturday. You don't get to take them with you. All the time out. That makes no sense. But I don't know. But it does kind of all tie in here because what is a 4th round pick worth? What is a 4th round pick worth? Is it worth $867?
Yeah, exactly. That's the answer.
That was easy. John, you've been picking up a lot of players lately with 3rds and 4ths and 5ths and 8th round picks and 9th round picks and whatever you have, 2026 8th round picks for whoever you've been trading for. But who are some of the guys you've been picking up here, making a run?
You know what? In most of my leagues, it's one of those things where whoever's, some people have their rosters are full all the time and they don't have these options. So the worse your league is, the worse your team is, the better it is to like obviously Zion Knight is somebody that already picked up. Eno Benjamin is someone that gets dropped a lot. I like him. He's a good. Chris Evans. Jerome Ford got dropped in the league, even though he's on IR. I have no idea why that happened, but I'll pick him up, of course, 100%. De'Ami Brown's another guy that I don't mind. I know he's terrible, but Isaiah Hodgins, I don't know if you know him from the Giants. Like, that's someone that I picked up, and he had a touchdown call back his first.
Bills caught him a couple weeks ago. He's rolling with the Giants now, who have no one to throw to. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so guys, like, you never know, especially when you got 30-man rosters and stuff. Why wouldn't you do that? Like, why wouldn't you pick up, like, Myles Gaskin was, somebody that I just picked up just because of the situation that was in the backfield. Deion Jackson gets cut and picked back. I don't know why would you cut Deion Jackson when he's a step away from
right.
I know Zach Moss is there now, but
you got rid of Hines too, so he's really like going to be the guy.
Yeah,
Raheem Blackshear, Greg Dortch. I don't, these are Danny Gray. Like, I don't understand why would that's, if you have 30-man rosters, why wouldn't you hold a guy like Danny Gray? If there's nobody else to pick up, of course, why wouldn't you grab those guys?
Yeah, that makes sense. So not even necessarily for contending teams, but just saying possible value adds. Why not throw out a 4th and just see what happens?
I'm not a big fan of the 49ers offense. It seems like so diluted that nobody's ever going to be a stud, minus McCaffrey, and he's even getting his workload cut all the time. So I'm not a huge fan of those like multi-talent. It's almost like the better the team is, the worse they are in fantasy. I mean, that's exactly the way it is actually. But it's Danny Gray's just someone that you never know. If they get if they're behind in games, they got to throw, and so Ayuk gets hurt or something like that. I mean, why wouldn't it's all of a sudden it becomes then he does good for a week and you try to trade him away for a 4th round pick or a late 3rd or whatever to the Ayuk owner.
Yeah, right, exactly. So one of the biggest things I'm having issues right now with is some of my good teams that I guess it's kind of like, you have your top heavy teams where you pretty much have your starters. And, last week was unique because we didn't have any bye weeks, right? So for whatever reason, the NFL thought, hey, Thanksgiving week 12, no bye weeks. But then we're going to give you bye weeks in week 13 and 14 just to screw everyone. Okay. I think it's incredibly stupid. I think if I was an NFL team, I'd be absolutely pissed if I had a week 14 bye. Like, it makes no sense. Anyway.
I don't get the skipping week 12. That was so bizarre.
Yeah. So we had.
Is there a reason for it?
I don't. Just to make the TV schedule work and everything for all the games, all the primetime games. But basically, that was our first opportunity since early in the season to take, look at our rosters and say, okay, where are we at? What guys do we have starting? And so I'm noticing that, I'm terrible at doing lineups. I should just play all best ball. Honestly, I'd probably win way more because I can never pick the right thing. Do I go by matchups? Do I go by, somebody's rankings, consensus rankings? Do I flip a coin? Like, honestly, I can go any direction, and I've tried all these things over the years, and I've never found anything that like worked for me. So once I get down to, especially playoff start sit decisions, that's obviously, the most important. Do you guys have a process for that, or like how do you do it when you have a good team and you have multiple options and nobody's on bye and guys aren't injured? Like, how do you figure out who to start?
I'm leading my league in.
What do you
I'm
do?
leading one of my leagues in points, and I played Isaiah McKenzie for like 5 weeks in a row, and he did nothing for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. He had one decent game. I sat him last week. He scored 28 points, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is why it's. But I mean, that's what makes it fun. I would hate to, because I'll tell you what, best ball is so dry. Everybody drafts, and you never hear from me the rest of the year again.
I hate best ball.
Best ball is terrible.
My best ball leagues are exactly everything we do. We don't do lineups. We have waivers, we have trades,
lineups.
We have matchups, we have everything except lineups. It's perfect. I love
talking to each other.
I still hate it. Even if you can trade and do all the other stuff, and you should have to set a lineup. To me, there's something less than about doing a league where you don't have to set a lineup.
Still pays me the same money.
But yeah, I mean, I don't have any big, mind-blowing key to doing this either. I know you say this all the time. I know Russ says it too. I don't feel I'm that bad at setting lineups. So basically all I do is, normally I have like 7 to 8 guys that I don't even think about, like on most of my teams.
Sure.
And it's really only like 2 to 3 spots you're really worried about. Maybe if you have a 13, 14 starter league, that might be a little tougher. But a lot of it is just going for me by the MFL rankings. Like I said, most of my leagues are on MFL. Sleeper has it too, where it has like the green and the red, and I think a number there. And I use that a lot. Like if I see a guy that's playing what MFL has, I think it's by fantasy and not actual NFL, like passing statistics or whatever. But if like a receiver's going against the 27th team against the pass, then I'll probably start them if they're borderline between them and somebody else. So a lot of it's just that. A lot of it's just knowing there's some bad defenses out there, even if that's not exactly what MFL says. So yeah, I mean, I just tend to use rankings right on the site there, and I don't feel it's worked out. Like you say, you're bad at setting lineups because maybe some guy goes off. Like I know I had a couple of leagues where I had Zay Jones who scored like 25 points last week. I don't consider myself bad at setting lineups because I didn't start Zay Jones when he scored 25 points. So I think you can be fine at setting lineups and still not always end up. You're rarely ever going to end up with the exact 10, 11, 12 right guys.
So I'm more of like, okay, so I have Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott. The first 9 weeks last year, every guy I benched out of those 3 was the highest scoring, right? It didn't matter matchups. It didn't matter anything. So what I started doing is just putting the guy that I could watch play. I was like, oh, he's playing on Sunday night. He's going in my lineup because I'll get to watch him.
But even with that, were the other 2 guys really that bad that it was such a big thing that you didn't start the highest?
When you're trying to win, when I'm like my one league that gave me so much trouble last week, Barkley, Aaron Jones. Okay, you plug those guys in. Dameon Pierce, Tony Pollard, Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson had that great matchup. Mostert was hurt. So like, okay, do I start him over Dameon Pierce, who's been so great this season? But then Houston's changing quarterbacks, and like then you start thinking about all these different things. You're like, well, Zeke's back healthy, so Pollard's not going to get all this. And it's like, how do I know who to start? How do I pick? Look at the rankings because they're all basically those 3 guys were all just like 1, 2, 3, all in a row. You could look at any site, you could look at any expert, you could ask your favorite person on Twitter, and they'd all give you 3 different answers.
And if the rankings are close, one other thing I will look at is the game. Like, is this projected to be a low scoring game or a high scoring game? And then that can help break the tie for me, even if the rankings
over unders.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like, when like the Giants are playing the Cowboys and it's projected at 41, and you get like the Raiders and Cardinals at 52, then I'll go with the lower end Raider or Cardinal, or I'll go Matt Collins or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
The weather is a big factor also,
especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Always worry more about wind than rain or snow, though, unless it's crazy snow.
Yeah,
it's about to be that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Wind,
You know,
wind is a
But
bad
even
thing.
in the snow, if it's not like a blizzard, they don't usually tend to have a huge problem. It's way more an issue, I think, when it's windy than when it's raining, or unless it's like a monsoon, like that first game of the year with the Bears or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, John and I have both been to games in person at Soldier where we've seen a kick start completely perfectly down the middle and the wind just
Yeah.
and it's gone. It literally went out of the stadium. So definitely agree with that. So
Yeah, I tell you what though, like starting lineups,
NFLweather.com.
you know, Scott, I learned a lot from the whole redraft is fun, and everything. But in Dynasty, I trade up a lot and I trade a lot of assets away to get 2 or 3 good quarterbacks. Like most of my leagues, I traded 2 first-round picks to P-Win for Patrick Mahomes. That's fine,
Yeah.
and a bunch of other stuff. I don't, whatever. And
I wish I did.
so I got him, and I got Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence in like probably 7 or 8 leagues. So that's fine. I'll let those 2 guys cook, and Trevor Lawrence be a plug and play for a week while those 2 guys are up. But eventually, all 3 of those guys will be in the same situation you're in. And of course, I'm going to have some bad weeks where the defense plays good against Josh Allen or a bad weather game, or I'm not going to get it right. But I'm still going to get 35 points probably for whoever quarterback I start. So I've learned to start my team with good quarterbacks and a really good tight end, and then piecemeal then and build up wide receivers after that. And when my whole roster is quarterbacks, tight end premium, a good tight end, and then really good receivers, then I'll just worry about filling my running back situation. Because as you see this year, the Jaylen Warrens and the Deion Jacksons and this and that, the guys are, I mean, Darrell Henderson, as soon as Darrell Henderson had one good game, I traded him away for a 2nd-round pick. Like, it's so easy to manipulate the market on running backs, and they don't last very long. So you have to build up everything around there. But if you can get the AJ Browns and the DK Metcalfs and the guys like that, your lineup decisions aren't really that hard. And especially in your 30-man league, the cream's going to rise at the top, and the people who actually go out and trade and make things happen. You're going to have a really good core of your starting lineup players, and a lot of not so good, but good replacement players anyway. It's almost like you don't have to have anybody's rankings. You don't have to have anybody. You will know what your lineup's going to be. The bye weeks, of course, are a whole different story because you're going through 5 or 6 different replacement players, but that's when you look at matchups, who's playing what, who's matched up against one defender that week, all kind of. That's why I don't want to get into the IDP world, but at the same time, I feel like I'm losing out by not knowing the cornerbacks who my players are going to be up against. So you almost have to jump in that world to be, to know what you're doing as far as all the time.
Point. Yeah, that's no doubt. I have a couple IDP leagues, but it's more just like a couple spots as opposed to like a full lineup, so I really don't know the corners either. But PFF has a great matchup chart that they put out every week that tells you the best matchups, and if guys typically are, if they just are going to guard the one, the top guy, or do they not, do they guard one side of the field, right? Do they move into the slot, like whatever?
And I don't, if you got guys like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase playing, that kind of, I don't care if Jesus Christ himself is covering him. I don't. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You're going to.
Jefferson will still catch it. Yeah.
I mean, he's amazing. The way he gets open, the way you get the digs, you got all that kind of stuff. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, well that's good stuff. I think there's a lot of good resources out there. NFLweather.com. That's the one I've been using this year for the weather games. Sometimes you just don't know. If you leave it to somebody who's following that exclusively, then you don't have to worry about checking 16 weather reports, right? Especially the way it changes so quickly. Like obviously, like Buffalo, we saw they knew that was coming, so they could adjust for it. But Chicago, shit changes quickly, right?
Right.
Good resources can help down the stretch. So got to lean on those resources. All right, so I want to do a little a nod to our buddies over at Dynasty Wall Street. They just had their 100th episode. They're part of the DTC network, Dynasty Wall Street. If you search that anywhere, podcast can be found. That's Russ Fisher, Kane Vassell, and John Bosch.
That Russ Fisher, he stinks.
They have a great show. Kane's always right, usually. So that's how that goes. But yeah, they just had their 100th episode, and I thought it would be kind of a fun thing here that we could do and apply it to what we've been talking about this week and the past couple weeks. So I'm going to do one for running backs, that's geared more towards like old guys to buy now for your championship run. I'm going to do one for wide receivers that's young guys that maybe we're going to target in the non-point scoring season, or maybe just even move picks now for these guys or older assets for them for the future. And then we're going to do one for quarterbacks because I'm just personally curious and I want to know what you guys think. So we're going to start with the easy one. It's only 4 names.
So wait, Scott, real quick before you get into the names, I just want to let SU in the chat know that you should trade Darius Slayton away for anything you can possibly get for him because he's asking about trading him for a 24 second and a 23 third.
Oh, yeah.
I would trade him for the 23 third easily by itself.
I am probably the biggest Darius Slayton fan you will ever find anywhere, and I'm not related to him, but I've got to be, most likely. I have him on basically every roster. Yes, you should do that trade.
So I just wanted to let SU know that. Yes. Okay,
Good,
now continue. I'm sorry.
Good job. Okay. Okay, so running backs. 4 names. I'm going to give you guys 4 names, and then you're just going to rank them in order of what you want first to last. So it's real easy. So in this case, they're not necessarily next to each other in rankings. I'm just going to give you the 4 names because I think they're similar and somewhat similar value, but maybe I'm wrong, and that's where you guys can tell me I'm wrong. So here are the 4 names: Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, and Dalvin Cook. So you're a contender, and you're going to trade for those 4. And you can tell me if are they all similar? You have them in different tiers. Is there one that you're like, yes, this is the clear guy I'm going for? Is there one guy that you're like, no, I don't want anything to do with? It's up to you guys. You guys give me your thoughts. I'll tell you my 4 at the end, but you just tell me when you're ready to start. 4. You got your 4? All right, go ahead. Yeah. You start, Rocky.
This is pretty easy for me, and Henry would be in a tier by himself for me. He would be number 1. Not miles ahead of the other ones, but easily I would want him more because basically all I care about is the rest of 2022 for all these guys because none of them are going to have a ton of future value. So basically I ordered them in, I think how they're scoring this year. I'm not positive, 100% positive, but I went Henry, tier break, Aaron Jones, then Dalvin Cook, and then Alvin Kamara. And Kamara and Cook are really close for me because they're way more inconsistent than the other. I mean, Aaron Jones is kind of inconsistent too, but he gives you bigger boom weeks, I think, than Cook and Henry are at this. Cook and Kamara are at this age. I mean, I think Kamara's had 1 or 2 big games, but it's fewer and farther between than Aaron Jones.
Yeah, well, I had the same order, so that's not very much fun. But John, maybe you have something different.
You're muted.
I might mute myself all the time.
Oh, I've done that plenty, John. Don't worry.
Henry's number 1, Cook's number 2, and then I'm only going Kamara number 3 because I think that Jones is going to be somewhere else next year. So I just think that Kamara is going to be still I'm not a humongous Kamara fan. I know he's great.
He could be suspended for like 6 games next year too.
He's got. No matter where Jones goes, he's an elite talent. So I mean, these guys, all 4 of these guys are elite talents. But I'm not sure what's going to happen with Jones next year. I'm going to have to put Kamara here, even though I don't want to. But it's going to be Henry, Cook, Kamara, and then Jones.
I think Jones is the oldest of the non-Henry guys too, right?
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just think that it's about to be AJ Dillon time there. So. I think they're going to move on from Aaron Jones, and I'm not sure where he's going to land up in some kind of committee or something like that. I know what Kamara is, even with he didn't do too well when Jameis was in the offense, but I think he's just an all-around better football player than Aaron Jones.
Yeah, AJ Dillon is actually my most rostered running back that you've heard of besides like Hassan Haskins or whatever guys that don't cost you anything to roster. So on those rebuilding or retooling teams, I've been adding a lot of Dillon.
I'm trying.
Fortunately, he's scoring like a lot of those guys a lot of weeks.
I know.
Yeah, well, that's why I've been able to get him so cheap.
I know.
I traded like Mariota for him in one league. It's like, okay, I'll give you Mariota and a couple of thirds for AJ Dillon in a second. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Was that a 2-quarterback league?
No, just super flex.
Somebody took what did it? Holy cow, that's a steal.
Yeah, I think it was. I forget.
By the way, did anybody think in week 13 Mariota would still be starting?
He's doing.
Did anybody think? Yeah, no, he's terrible. It's just so.
I know. I'm just amazed by
pointless.
we all thought we were all sure like Desmond Ridder was going to have a decent.
There's a guy you should buy, right?
Yeah, he stinks, but sure.
Yeah, he stinks, but I mean, he's not worse than Mariota.
He might not
and he's getting a full year.
His value, but I thought he had a guaranteed value bump coming into the year because I was sure he was going to start this year. I'm not sure he ever starts if he doesn't start this year. Like, I guess they're not going to be bad enough to be at the very high end, but I still could see them drafting a first-round quarterback at like 15 or, guys, Mac Jones got drafted at 50. Guys, decent prospects can get. I agree, but he's a guy that's going to start for
I get it.
3-4 years and over a Desmond Ridder. You know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure.
That's one of those things where if the Desmond Ridder people paid a little too much to get him, and they're not going to let him go for anything easy. Like that's it. Most people reach for Desmond Ridder.
That's true. All right. Okay, well, this one we're going to go to the opposite side here. We've got some young wide receivers. We talked a lot about these guys in the summer, and we all had our thoughts and rankings. We had on a lot of great people, film and data, and put together rankings, and now we're getting to see them on the field a little bit, and hopefully the last one here in the next couple weeks we'll get to see. So there's a bunch of names here. I want to see how you guys feel at this point. Again, we're not worried about contender or anything. We're just saying, how do you feel about these guys going forward, and who do you most want? So Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, George Pickens, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Jameson Williams, and Christian Watson.
Wow. That's an
So 7 names there. Those are basically all the major pieces from, wide receiver class this past wide receiver.
Speaking of Watson, I'm very happy to see. Like, he was a guy I liked a lot going into the draft, coming out of the draft process, and then he kind of got left for dead because he got hurt and didn't do much the first half of the year. And now we're seeing what he's capable of. But gosh, this is tough.
What is I got 5 of the 7. Can you repeat those again one more time?
Okay, so Wilson, Olave, Pickens, London, Burks, Williams, Watson.
All right.
It's a big list, but I think they all need to be mentioned because
I agree.
That's where we're at right now. I think we're going to look back and say this is a pretty productive class,
I'm going to start my list with Olave first of all. I'll tell you that much. That's
I agree.
I have Olave at 1 as well.
I agree.
He's in a tier with one other guy for me, even though he's produced more than this guy. I think I have my list. I can go. My number 2 guy is Wilson. I would have them in the same tier. I think the only reason he hasn't having the season Olave is having is Zach Wilson. We saw that when Mike White came in this week, and he's produced with Joe Flacco as well. So
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, exactly. So I think those 2 are clearly the top. I struggle with 3 and 4 because I didn't love London coming in. I ended up putting him at 4. I put Pickens ahead of him. I kind of had them neck and neck in the draft process, and I kind of gave London the edge because of, he had done more in college and he was drafted much higher, basically. So, but I kind of put Pickens there now that we're seeing them both on the field. I know London's got shitty quarterbacking and shitty coaching, but but Pickens doesn't have the best quarterbacking either. And now that Claypool's out of there, he's still he's producing decently. He's getting you double-digit points most weeks.
Yeah.
So, and London is not doing that. And I think Pickens' future is super bright. So I'd have those 2, I think, in a tier. Yeah.
Yep.
And then Williams, probably a tier of his own just because we don't know what he is yet, but I love him. So he'd be my 5.
Yep.
He was my wide receiver. I think it was Wilson Williams for me. Coming out.
I think so.
Yeah. And Williams might have been my number 1 if he didn't have the injury. So He's a guy that can, he can
I
go
know you
deep.
loved him, and I know John loved him too. So I'm curious to see where John's at.
He's a guy that he can beat you deep, but he's a lot more than that. I think I mentioned this on Trade Addicts that I think that may be how they use him when he comes back this year, just because they don't, they have some other weapons there, and he's still getting in the swing of things, and I think they might just use him to stretch defenses more than anything. But I think next year we'll see the all around game from him. And then I probably have the other two also in a tier together, which would be, I did put Burks 6, Watson 7, just because Burks is, he did get hurt too. But I think he's done it a little more this year, even when he wasn't producing points. If you looked at some of the analytics, he was doing a lot he wasn't getting as many routes run and things like that. They weren't using as much earlier in the year, but he was producing on a per route basis. And Watson, I am loving what I'm seeing, but it's not like he's going. It's not like he's getting like 10 targets a game or anything yet. He's producing partially because of touchdowns, which is not always sticky. He's only got, I think, like 4 catches in each game that he's had like, I think 3 20-point games in a row or something like that, but only like 4 or 5 catches, if that, in all of them. So I like what I'm seeing, but I think I want to see a little more. And same with Burks. I mean, he hasn't even boomed as much as Watson has, I think, but I liked Burks a little more coming out, and I don't think that either one has separated themselves from the other, despite this little run from Watson.
Yeah, I mean, I think all that pretty much makes sense. I have a couple minor tweaks on mine, but John, let's go to you next.
Olave, and then I think Wilson's just a better talent than the rest of these guys. Just all around better talent. I like Jameson Williams. I thought he was my number one, but it's taken so long to recover from this injury. I don't know how he's going to come out.
They're just taking their time because.
Well, that's the other thing too is I don't know who their quarterback's gonna be next year, and he's a field stretcher. If they get a guy with a noodle arm that's an accurate pass, what if they get like a Mac Jones? I mean, there's not a Mac Jones next year's draft, but I don't know how that offense is going to be. And that's another team we're talking about. It's got a lot of talent on it. There's a lot of talent on a team for there's the running backs, the tight end. The tight end would be somebody they're gonna get. What's his name from Notre Dame? I think in next year's will be the first round pick.
Michael Mayer.
Yeah, that's what I think. They got rid of Hawkinson because they're laser focused on getting replacing the tight end position with Meyer. So there's a lot of good people, a lot of good talent on that team. I think he's just going to be a field stretcher, kind of like a best ball guy, the same as Watson is. But I got London after him. Treylon Burks, I had a lot of doubts about Burks. I just didn't. Of course, the asthma stuff was just kind of, that all goes away. Guys, it is what it is. But Burks he's really impressing me now. I didn't like him a lot. I didn't know what his skill set was going to be. I mean, he's a big dude like AJ Brown. I didn't know there's no way you can be AJ Brown, and he's turning into AJ Brown in that offense slowly but surely, which is really, it's impressing me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Pickens, I traded for Pickens in a lot of places, and I traded a lot of times a first and a second to get the Kenny Pickett, George Pickens stack in a lot of leagues, and that's fine. I'd rather have what I think is going to be the future than some kind of dice roll in a rookie draft, So I'm super happy with that. And then Watson, he's just a best ball player to me. He's MVS. He's down on Peoples Jones. He's those kind of guys. He's good, but man, how many times can this guy drop the ball before? I know he catches those. He runs those like 10-yard slants, and he's so fast that he beats guys on those slants. There's nobody can catch you when you're doing one of those slants, and he runs them pretty well. And again, what happens if Rodgers is gone? I know Love's got a pretty good arm too, but Rodgers is just a different quarterback that to hit a guy like Watson and make him look good. But again, I think Watson's just a best ball player.
Yeah. Well, I think both of you had a lot of the same points about these players. Now that we're getting to see them on the field and, see what they can actually do. I think most of these guys, though, they're just, I don't think we're truly seeing them being unleashed because they're pretty much all on bad teams. I mean, every one of these guys is on a bad team. I mean, yeah, Tennessee's got a winning record.
Don't the Jets have a winning record?
I don't know. And I think, the Jets do too. But it's like, are they really great teams?
No, and they're not good, especially like I said with Zach Wilson. They weren't even if they were a good team, they weren't a great offense. No,
but I will say this. I mean, London was my guy, but in the one rookie draft we do before the NFL draft, I had the 3rd pick and could have taken London, but I took Garrett Wilson because I thought he was a safer pick. And when you have a rookie draft before the NFL draft, you don't want to waste those picks, especially high picks. So I went with Wilson there. So I can tell you that as much as I love London,
Smart man.
Wilson was just, I felt like, the safer pick. So I would have Olave, Wilson, Pickens, and London, all 4 to me in that same tier. I love all those guys, and I'd be happy to give up a 23 first for any one of those guys, assuming it's not a top 3 pick. And then I would have another tier, then Burks and Williams and Watson. And I think, Watson turned out, for me, I think I only have like 3 or 4 shares, and they were all basically like 110, 111, 112. I took him on really good teams where I could swing for the fences, where if he busted, it wasn't really going to ruin my team. But if he does anything, if he hits big, I mean, it's huge. But if he does anything and I can make a profit, I will probably do that. So I will probably be trading a share or 2, or packaging up maybe. We'll see what happens over the next couple of months, but I think there's a good possibility I'll be selling him for a profit. So I'd be excited about that.
I took Sky Moore over Watson in almost every draft. I had the opportunity between both of them. That's just where I was. So if that tells you anything, where that's how I felt.
Yeah. Well, and I think, the thing on Moore is that it just like Watson, is that he needed some time. So it's nice to see that he's gotten on the field. But we'll see with him too. I'm not like necessarily worried about him either, because I think he does need a little bit of time. And like Juju's only on a 1-year deal.
The whole team
Tony,
is.
who knows? Like, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity there too. So I'm not really worried about it. I mean, Hardman, he can't stay healthy. He can't do much. So I'm not worried about any of those guys. I think Moore's got a good opportunity going forward. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to turn out to be, I mean, that's 7 guys there that I think he'd be pretty happy if he drafted any of them.
Oh yeah.
I don't think anybody's upset of what they got out of those guys at this point. Okay, so last one we'll do here is quarterbacks. We know who like the top elite 6 or 7 are, so we're gonna move down from that. And I think maybe you guys have 1 or 2 of these players in that tier, but for me, this is clearly like, these are the guys I would want to pair with one of those elite guys. This is like that next tier that I don't know quite how to put these guys. 7 names again, a lot of names here, but let's do this. So Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, Tua, T-Law, Dak, and Lance. So Kyler, Watson, Fields, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Trey Lance.
I can tell you right now who's going to be last. It's going to be Trey Lance.
Okay, I would have him last too. Rocky, would you have him last?
Yes.
Okay, then just eliminate him. We can eliminate. So Murray, Watson, Fields, Tua, T-Law, Dak. I mean, I think we've seen. It's kind of interesting. I kind of want to know where Watson fits in here too, which I think maybe our minds will change in a month. But I want to know right now, right? And I know Rocky, you and I have both traded for some Watson shares. That we're ready to see if that pays off.
Yeah, I have one league, TA1, where I'm gonna be. I only have 1 quarterback, so I'm gonna be I kind of skimped because I knew I had Watson later in the year, and I have Hurts is my QB1. So I had Wentz, and then he got hurt, and then I got Davis Mills, and then he got benched.
I have the same scenario in a league, the exact same guys, except I have Darnold as well. So I got one start out of it.
Yeah. So now I'll finally, well, not finally, because I think Mills just got benched a week or two ago, but now I'll have 2 quarterbacks again with Watson coming back. But I'm not expecting a ton from him in 2022, but it'll probably be at least as good as Davis, Mills, and Wentz. So
fair point. Yes, he better be.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have my list. If you want me to go first again.
All right, go ahead, Rocky.
I have it pretty close in the order you listed them.
Okay.
I have Kyler 1. I think I would put him in a tier by himself just because I think he has the highest ceiling of these guys, and we've seen it more from him than we've seen it from, say, a Fields. He's got the rushing upside, and as long as they, and I think if Kingsbury, Cliff Kingsbury goes after this year, I think that could actually help him because I don't think Kingsbury's this great offensive mind the Cardinals thought he was going to be. So I have him 1. I put Watson 2. I don't know if you guys have him that high, but I still expect after, like I said, I think this year he's going to be shaking the rust off. He hasn't played in over 2 years, I guess, in actual time.
Yeah.
I don't think the timing of when he's coming back is great with, it's going to be now December in Cleveland and just a lot of factors. I don't think we're going to see peak Deshaun Watson, but I think with the full off season, with maybe adding some weapons, I expect him to get back to what we saw before. And that guy is definitely 2 on this list. The guy we saw, back in Houston.
I'd say 1.
So I kind of think I'd put him in a tier by himself. And then the next 3 I'm all going to put in a tier, but I could see Fields moving up. I have Fields 3, and basically because of the rushing. We've seen him, go crazy with that in recent weeks before the injury. And that's basically it. And he's looking decent as a passer too, and he has no weapons. So I mean, if that can improve, he could literally rise. Yeah, and especially now that Mooney's out for the year, I think, right?
Yeah, he's done.
2 of 4, Dak 5, which maybe that I could see a lot of people arguing with that, but 2 has been better than Dak this year. And then in a tier easily below the rest is Trevor Lawrence for me, who's, I think people still remember that he started off a lot better than last year, but he has not been that great most of this year. So after he had like a decent first few weeks, and then he's kind of not as bad as last year, but definitely tailed off a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, John.
Man, I'm gonna have a little different list than you guys.
That's fun. That's what you want. Yeah.
So
I got Watson number 1. I just think that he's going to, it is what it is. He's just a great athlete, great quarterback, great everything. Even they have good receivers there already, and they're just going to get better. So it's really hard for me to determine between Dak Prescott and Trevor Lawrence as my 2-3. That's kind of like wow. I had those guys pretty close.
I'm kind of a T-Law hater.
I just, I can tell, but it's all right. Tua is just going to be good because if you watch the games, I watch the condensed games, every one of the games when they're over with, so.
A Dolphins fan, by the way.
I'm a Dolphins fan, by the way. And I have him above Murray and Fields, but just because of the fact of the matter that he throws 5-yard slants that turn into 85-yard touchdowns on a regular basis. He almost throws like 5 interceptions a game. He's so sloppy and inaccurate all the time. But you can't not have a good game when you have those 2 guys to throw to. It's ridiculous. And he's got Gesicki to get open at tight end too when those guys are busy or covered. And Gesicki doesn't do much, but he doesn't have to because everything is a 5-yard slant. The teams they can't cover him man to man, so they cover him in zone defense. And these guys know exactly. Okay, I'm going to go right between the linebacker and right between the linebacker and safety, and I'll be open right there. And it's a 7-yard pass, and they turn it into everything's at least a 20-yard completion. And they go bam, 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 and they get to the red zone when it's man coverage and they can't do anything when they don't have room to run. So I like Tua just for the fact of the matter that I like Tua better than Murray. I think Murray's kind of showing his true colors right now. I don't think he is better than. I don't think Tua is what everybody thought he was going to be coming out. You guys obviously disagree because he was number 1 on your list, Rocky. But I just think Tua has he's got a lot of head games he's got to play with.
You mean Kyler?
Or Kyler? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
he's got a lot of head games going on. He makes a lot of bad decisions sometimes. He doesn't. When people are open, and he makes a lot of throws that a lot of people would not make either. You know, and his receivers are kind of making him look good too. Also, kind of like, I would say kind of like the same thing like Tua. I don't think Murray would be Murray without the talent that he has around him. And Fields, obviously for fantasy football, this guy is ridiculous. He is a running quarterback. When you're throwing for 100 yards a game or 120 yards a game and running for 200, how long is that going to last for? You know, in fantasy, we play in 3-year windows. He's already beat up. He's already, he's
4 games. That's how long he lasted.
I understand there's no weapons on the team, but there's other people out there that don't have. I mean, look what Tua had to work with last year, and he didn't do very well, but it was arguably the same or worse than what so I don't, or Trevor last year anyway, but I just don't see Fields progressing all the way as much as I want to. I'm crossing my fingers and I'm hoping things happen. And next year next year is excuse me, the Justin Fields make or break year, because they're going to have draft picks. They have $160-some million in draft capital to spend, on free agents and offensive linemen. And they're going to say, hey, the clock starts right now after the draft. Here's your guys. Let's see what you do with this offense. And if you're just a running quarterback who can't make completions, then we're going to move on. So I think next year is his make or break. But I don't see his longevity in NFL as long as anybody else on this list anyway.
I just wanted to say, God, no, I'm choking up here. Yeah. I just wanted to say that with Kyler, I don't disagree with some of what you said. I don't necessarily love him the most from a real life perspective, in terms of, like you said, some of the stuff with the body language and, when Call of Duty comes out and all that. But I just think from a fantasy perspective, we're seeing like a floor season at this point, and he's QB9. So, and I just think the potential there, if a coach can come in and get more out of him. I agree the weapons help, but I see no reason they can't, keep putting weapons around him. So I just think the ceiling is so much higher, and his floor is so high too because of the rushing, and because he's of all the guys that are like have real high end rushing potential, he might be the best like actual passer out of them, I believe. Like between him and Lamar and Hurts and those kind of guys, the Fields that have the real high end rushing keep, and he's not quite as high end as them, but he's in that range. So
you think definitely not a better passer than Trevor Lawrence?
So far in his NFL career, yeah.
For the long term, I think that Trevor is going to be just I'm not talking about the last couple of weeks when he's hitting people but since day one, he's shown flashes of just brilliance. And it's on a regular basis because of what he had to deal with last year. And, they're learning a new system now, and he's got decent Zay Jones. I mean, whatever. It's nothing special, but I think that Trevor is going to be.
Well, and I was talking to you not about this list. I was saying among the other guys that have the rushing upside that Kyler has, that
Trevor
he's
has
one of the best passers. He does, but not like this year. He has. I just pulled up his stats. He has 179 yards. Kyler has like 420 or something like that. So he can move. I don't disagree with that, but he's not using it that way. The way some of those other guys are, like I said. So I just from a fantasy perspective, I like Kyler a lot more than Lawrence.
I get it. That's fine.
All right. Well, the good news is there's 3 of us, so there's going to be a tiebreaker here. For me, I have Watson 1 just because the quarterback play this year has just been terrible, man. Like it's just been awful, and I don't know. I'm hoping maybe he gives us some hope and like. But they're a running team. Yeah, because they had Baker and they had Brissett. That's why. And you have the best running back in the league. That's why you're running the ball a lot. I mean, it makes sense that you would do that. And then if you give a quarterback $250 million, I would think you're going to pass maybe a little bit more. These people that think it's going to be like, Fields passing numbers. It's not. I mean, are they going to lead the league in pass attempts? No, but they should be a pretty balanced team. And there's a couple of guys that are really talented that we've seen flashes from even with the Jacoby Brissetts of the world. And, I'd love to see a Donovan Peoples-Jones get unlocked by, Watson. He could easily do what Will Fuller did down in Houston with Watson. I mean, he is as talented or more than Will Fuller.
And he's had an underrated season even with Jacoby
Yes.
Brissett. He's been consistently in like the 12 to 17, 18 point range.
I have nightmares about that guy because Donovan Peoples-Jones, because I let him go for absolutely nothing last year. I figured I know what he is. He's going to be this for the rest of his life. He's going to be nothing but, and now he's turned out to be a pretty damn good receiver. And that's like, man, I had this guy for nothing, and I just let him go in every league because I outsmarted myself. But yeah, he looks pretty good.
Feels like he's helping kill on my David Bell shares.
Yeah. So, but there's another guy, right? Yeah. David Bell. He can be come in the slot. Cooper's playing well. Njoku, Harrison Bryant, both running backs can catch. I mean, it's not like he has nobody to throw to. I mean, let's be honest here. And the defense hasn't been that great considering, some of the personnel that they have. So if they have to score some points, they'll throw the ball. I promise you they will. So I'm going to have him at
1-1-2 for Watson. So that's consensus number 1 pretty much across the board. So
yep.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I just hate Kyler. So, I mean, there was no way he was going to be in my top 2. Especially so Hard Knocks in season is on now, and it's the Cardinals. Remember they did in season for the first time ever last year with the Colts, and this year is the Cardinals. Man, I love DeAndre Hopkins, man. And Budda Baker has just absolutely shocked me. That dude is a little badass. Granted, I could probably step on him. He's like 4'8", but he is one badass dude. And I would play with that guy any day of the week. But Kyler, you could just tell, man, he's just immature and talented, of course, but there's something about that guy. I do not like him. So I would have Watson 1, Dak 2. I'll put Kyler 3 just because, I mean, I think the coaching change would help him, but I also know that the Bidwells are incredibly cheap and they've given a lot of money to Kingsbury and the contract extension. So he may get another year, which is really sad because he doesn't deserve it. I will have Fields 4 just for the fact of the rushing. None of these other guys can rush the way that he can. Hopefully they'll get him some weapons next year. But you can't count on the Bears to get him some protection or weapons. You just really can't. Tua, you're exactly right, John. I have him at 5. And listen, a guy doesn't have to be good, and he's not. He's not good. He's not great. He's not a great quarterback. He still isn't. But it doesn't mean that he can't score fantasy points, right? So it doesn't mean that we don't want him. But you got to give the credit to Miami for doing all that. That's what the Bears need to look at and give Fields what Miami's done for Tua. That's what Chicago needs to do for Fields and all of these franchises, frankly, for all their young quarterbacks. That is the model. Like, if this is a copycat league, I want to see teams do that. Because if you can make Tua put up these numbers, imagine what you can do with, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and, hell, even Kyler Murray and some of those guys, right? Like, let's give them some protection. Let's give them some weapons. Let's, keep them ahead of the chains. Let's put them in good situations. I mean, that's
Trevor's going to kill him really next year.
It's the future, man. Let's see what happens. So Watson, Dak, Murray, Fields, Tua, and then I have Trevor Lawrence last. I think he's gonna continue building. I'm essentially treating this as his rookie year, because I just completely throw out everything from last year, and we'll just kind of see if he's able to take another step forward. I do think he will, but I don't think he'll ever be elite. So I'm glad I only have one player. So I don't have to worry about it, honestly. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that next quarterback tier is going to be real interesting, especially with the musical chairs that'll happen. Certainly this offseason with having not enough quarterbacks for 32 teams. And then you have some of those situations where guys are just locked in because, Russell Wilson's like the NBA right now. Like, Brooklyn's they're firing Jason Kidd. They're not trading Kevin Durant. Same thing in Denver. They're going to get a new coach. They're not getting rid of Russell Wilson. They can't do anything with that contract. So they'll have to figure out a way around that. But yeah, man, quarterback, super flex, that's what it's all about. So let's go figure out what to do with those guys, and let's see what happens with Watson. I'm going to do a quick listener league update, and then we'll get into Find Me a Trade here. As we get towards the playoffs, listener league 1, Rocky and Andrew have lost 2 in a row, and they've fallen out of first place.
It's a shame.
We were
in first place all year. Started 11-0, I believe. Like there's double headers and stuff.
So embarrassing. So embarrassing. I just don't get it. I mean, listen,
we're like 5 points off the points lead now. What the hell?
The top 5 spots are clinched though. So I mean, you're going to be in the playoffs. So, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. Ultimately, nobody's going to remember losing 2 in the regular season if you win the championship. So let's get there. We're going to
have a bye too.
And listen, I'm doing my part. I'm leading the Bijan sweepstakes. Okay. I'm currently the 101. Now let's keep it that way. Let's get going, because I'm going to need about 4 101s to be competitive at any point in the next 2 years. So yeah, that's good. Listener League 2, Andrew Ember is running away with the 1 seed. He has a 5-point lead over the 2 seed, and yet the seeds 2 through 9 are only separated by 5 points. So you have kind of like one team running away with it, and then you have 7 more teams that are fighting for 5 spots. So that should be
fun. Is that
fun.
the victory points you're talking about, or
correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Because you just said point. I wanted to make that clear to people.
Yes, victory points. Yes. Yeah. As far as our team, both of our teams are so shitty that we are not going to make the playoffs, and we're not going to get the 101. So clearly proof that our listeners
are way smarter,
better at fantasy.
Yeah. You guys just drafted bad or what?
No. We just got crushed by injuries. Mine and Rocky's team, we just got crushed by injuries. We lost everyone. We
had Breece and Javonte,
Cooper Kupp, Marquise Brown. We lost everybody, man. Andrew and Bobby's team, I have no idea what they're doing, so you're gonna have to ask them. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe some redemption next year, but for now we'll just suck and deal with it. Okay, well, let's get to Find Me a Trade here. One thing I want to point out, and we'll make sure we do a better job of this in the future, is a lot of these trade deadlines are passing. So we've got submissions, but if your trade deadline passed, it's kind of pointless to do a Find Me a Trade, right? So what we want to ask now from the listeners, guys, we need your submissions for leagues that don't have a trade deadline, because that's what's going to make sense right now. We did find one, however, that the trade deadline is this week, and it's a sleeper league. So on MFL, if the trade deadline is this week, it would be at the first kickoff of the first game, which would mean it's already passed because Bills Patriots has already started. However, on Sleeper, it's the opposite. It's actually at the end of the last game. So trades can be accepted all the way through the last snap of the Monday Night Football game, which I pulled off a trade last week on the very last play, the fourth quarter of the game, trading away DeAndre Hopkins in a league I'm not gonna win. So
Sleeper's such a better platform.
Real quick before we get into it, I'd be sad if we didn't put this in here.
Find me a trade.
Okay. Oh, excellent!
I had to get hard.
Thank you, Brian Har, for that. Thank you.
Love Brian Har.
All right, I am gonna. Okay, so this trade was submitted by Megan Benevento at Meggie McShmeg on Twitter. I do have her team pulled up here. Rocky, do you want to do the team or the settings?
I'll do the settings because I can't. Are you going to share the screen?
I will. Okay.
Because I don't have that up. So I will do the settings and her description, and then you can go through the roster. She's in a 10-team, 1 QB PPR, start 9. QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver, tight end, 3 flex. So smaller size league in terms of teams, smaller, starting roster, 28 roster spots, 4 IR, 5 taxi. And she says always in the playoffs, often favored, but never won the ship. have a reputation of drunk trading to my own detriment, which I love Megan for that line. And so I've avoided trades for a season or two due to low balls. But after being the bridesmaid in the playoffs for the first 3 seasons, I'm itching to win now without sacrificing the future. I recently made some blockbuster RB trades, running back trades. As we go through her roster, you see that she does have very good running backs. Very good everything pretty much, but think I still have room to improve by leveraging my QB depth, which I'm not so sure in a 1 QB league, but we can get into she does have very good QB depth though, but we can get into the roster. It's pretty loaded. I
got it separated by position if you want me to do it.
I do too. So all right. Okay, so it is a 1 quarterback league. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota. Running back, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Abdullah, P. Ryan, Snell, Blackshear, Reynolds, Haskins, Hunt, Kareem Hunt. Obviously loaded there on the top end, a bunch of guys that could plug in any week as well with injuries or whatever. Too many to start, honestly. I think she can only start 5. Probably has 6, 7 starting running backs there. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra, Sun God, Corey Davis, Cedric Wilson, Dortch, Noah Brown, McKenzie, DeAndre Hopkins, a bunch of other random guys there, Juju as well. And then tight end, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Austin Hooper, and Jelani Woods. And then she looks like she does have a handful of 23 picks and 24 as well, except the 24 first. So basically about as loaded as you can get for a 1 quarterback league. I mean, this is exactly how you're supposed to do it. I completely agree with her thoughts of saying, she has the depth at quarterback and be nice to leverage that. But I also completely agree with Rocky that I don't know that it's possible. Looking through some of these other rosters, didn't really find a team where I thought they would be willing to give up much for one of those quarterbacks. I believe she's a Chargers or Herbert fan, so I'm guessing she'd want to trade Josh Allen, which would bring the better return most likely. That would be my recommendation, but I didn't see a team that had a piece that made sense for them to give up. I would guess maybe a middling team that's trying to, plug in a quarterback to make a run, but again, I didn't really find one that made sense. So, Rocky, let's go to yours first, and then John, and then I'll wrap up the end.
Sure. In my little write-up when I did my trade, I put the real answer here is probably do nothing, because this team is pretty loaded. It's got high-end starters and depth at pretty much every position, except maybe tight end. But you have Travis Kelce, so who cares if you have depth? But we're obviously not going to say do nothing and then end the show. So,
we can have a great night.
Yeah, Junkies out. No, but even for, like I said, even for 10-team, a ridiculously good roster. The only thing I'd consider is possibly is trying to consolidate because you have so many good players. So I put something. I'm not sure if this is enough. I kind of think it is, especially since it's going to sort of like a team that's contending or at least in the playoff race, but isn't one of the high end teams. So I think it might make sense for them to break Stephon Diggs into 2 pieces. So I put trying something like Mixon and Hopkins to the team, A-Dub Trey Law for Diggs. Get a year or 2 younger. You get production actually isn't that far off on a per game basis this year, but you do get a little more production, but that can also be used as a plus. Like, you're not losing that much getting Hopkins, if you're talking with the guy, or girl. So, and the other team only has Cook and Ramondre at RB, who Ramondre's been very good. Cook is Cook, but that's all they have. You have to start 2. And actually all of these, like pretty much every running back. If you go Mixon, if you decide to, I mentioned later on that, if Mixon Hopkins wasn't enough, I'd be willing to maybe upgrade from Mixon to do this even. And all of those running backs are better than Ramondre and Cook this year. So you can give any of them, and they're getting not only an upgrade but also depth, because then now they have 3 guys that they can easily plug into their lineup every week. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. That was pretty much my reasoning there. Not a major drop off with Hopkins. Like I said, you give them the running back that they might want, and you get even more elite player in Stephon Diggs, who is the wide receiver 1 this year and has, like, last I checked, 90 and a touchdown tonight. That's the only issue, is that he already played this week and you have a trade deadlines. I don't know if Sleeper lets you put in get players that have already played. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can still trade for him, I would give it a shot. And again, it's the only thing I can think of is consolidate some of these already really good players and get an even better player potentially.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely makes sense. We want to get the most points in our lineup, right? We want to maximize that, and then it helps you with those lineup decisions, because you're gonna have some crazy lineup decisions here,
even with doing something like this, she's still gonna have ridiculous
decisions. Yeah. But I also look at some of the trades that she just made and see, trading DK Metcalf for Joe Mixon, trading this one I love, Sky Moore and a 24 first for Josh Jacobs. I love that trade.
Yeah.
I love that trade. That was a great trade. That makes perfect sense for both teams. Deals, I like it for both teams. So that makes sense. John, why don't you give us your thoughts on that trade, and then you can jump into yours.
First of all, this roster is, like you guys said, it's fantastic. But there is just so much fat to cut here. There's a lot of players that don't even belong on, like, a roster that you can get rid of right away. I'm looking to trade away guys. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with Kareem Hunt. We talked about Aaron Jones before, how his contract's coming up soon. I'm going to sell high on guys like that. And then I look at teams that, like, especially Darren Waller. I can't wait to get Darren Waller off every team I possibly can. And so if I'm looking at a team that has really, nothing at tight end, there's JJ Baker, 23. That team really needs a tight end. And then quarterback, there's no reason to have 4 quarterbacks on a 1 quarterback league. I understand that, you got to fill a roster, but you only need 2 quarterbacks in this whole league. You don't need Derek Carr. The 2 quarterbacks you have, you can ride off in the sunset for the next 20 years with the 2 quarterbacks you have right now. So anybody that, like, King Dubs 91 and Zaza Gargles Curry. I hope it's Curry. I don't want to hear, there's a different name for it, whatever, but I don't know. I got a dirty mind, but there's some things here that she could definitely go. You know what I did? I combed through the waiver wire too. I imported all these guys on a spreadsheet, and I kind of combed through to see what was available. And surprisingly, for this setup here, there's really not that many free agents available in the top 300 that that this league has. But I'm looking, if I'm trying to sell Waller, I'm looking to,
I like that,
like try to get like a Calvin Ridley or AJ Dillon, or you want running backs on a team like this. You want
add value for next year.
Yeah. Try and get a couple, like try and piece a couple, like the Nico Collins and the Trey McBrides. Like, if you want to, you can get rid of a couple these tight ends, a couple pieces, and try for young. If you can get Darren Waller for Trey McBride as somebody that's trying to win right now with the rest of their positions, I mean, she is win now. She is epitome of win now. But you go after running backs, go after Jalen Warrens, the Kenny Gainwells, the Khalil Shakers, guys like that in this league. Go after Mike Gesicki's and Travis Ebner's, and guys that might have an opportunity next year. Dan Bellinger's, KJ Hamler's. There's Sam Howell is not even owned in this league anywhere. He's somebody that if you want to have just a third quarterback, you can get him instead of the other quarterbacks you have. Try and sell Isaiah McKenzie. Caleb Huntley's available, but I mean, in rosters like this, I'd rather have Caleb Huntley than like Russell Gage or Jelani Woods, or before you look into trades, I always comb the waiver wire. John Mechie's available too. I know he had cancer this year, but it's someone you could just pick up for free right now before you even make a trade. So I'd try to fill my roster first of all with players that are available on the waiver wire that could pan out first of all next year, and then I'd look to get rid of Darren Wallers and you know get rid of Derek Carr, get rid of Mariota right now. Wait, Mariota might not be worth a penny next year. Nothing. Derek Carr is not doing great this year, but there are teams that need quarterbacks in this league. Trade him for a second round pick, a third round pick. Who cares? In a 10-team league, those picks are consolidated. You're gonna get a lot more for your buck for draft picks than you will, just what somebody's gonna give you for Derek Carr or Mariota right now, especially in a one quarterback league. I would rather start from scratch with consolidated draft picks than have Derek Carr, Mariota, or Austin Hooper. The Sterling Shepard. Some people are getting second round picks for Sterling Shepard. Hey, have at it, man. There you go. We talked about that earlier. Noah Brown, we know what he's not going to do in this league. Greg Dortch is somebody I like. But again, he's just a flyer. Isaiah McKenzie is somebody that he's having a good year right now, but we know that the end is near for him. Corey Davis is good, but he's just a player on a team that Zach Wilson likes, and he's okay. But even the running backs, you got Raheem Blackshear, he's just a dart throw. Ronnie Rivers was a 1 week wonder, possibly that really didn't pan out. Hassan Haskins, I'd keep around just because of what he's got potential in case of an injury. But Darrell Williams, Amir Abdullah, P. Ryan had a good game, but he's not for long. Benny Snell, we know what he is. Craig Reynolds, Zach Horvath, like he doesn't even belong on a roster. Trent Sherfield, Bo Melton, Jalen Guyton, Cedric Wilson. These are all guys I would just try and trade 2 or 3 of these guys for a draft pick to somebody that would give you anything. I like to call it spamming the league. It's my favorite hobby to do. I send the same trade to everybody across the board and see if I can get a third round pick, or if Scott gets these all the time usually when I got nothing to do at work. So you got to take 2 or 3 pieces and just try and these are 30-man 10-team rosters. Every team's going to be stacked minus the guy second from the end. That team's terrible, but I don't know what he's going to do. But you got to get rid of a lot of these pieces and start from scratch. And
yeah,
I mean that's a perfect segue because that's my trade is to that team second from the end, because they're actually looking at the standings. That team is like 12 points away from the 101, so they need to shed some points right now and go after that. That it is so important for your argument to those top 3 teams is to give them your picks for their productive players, because the 101 is incredibly important for Bijan. Who cares if they get the 102? It doesn't matter. I mean, you don't care about Stroud or Bryce Young or any of those guys. It doesn't matter. So there's a 3-way battle there that's going to be decided in these last couple weeks for the 101. And I would go to each one of those managers and say, do you want Bijan, or do you just want like some guy, right? So my whole thing here is, I mean, I looked for a trade for Josh Allen. I just didn't see a team. From my point of view, if I was any of those teams, would I be trading for a quarter? I don't really trade for quarterbacks in a quarterback league, so it's just not my philosophy. So maybe you can, maybe just put them on the trade block, see what you can get. But my thought process now is preservation of your lineup, because things happen, and I mean I want to win the championship. Your team is going to have a bye. You just need one game. You got to win one game to get to the championship. So let's get you there. And so I would go to that team, that Zazu team, and I would send my 23 second for Njoku. And I would add in any of those pieces John just mentioned. I'd add in 2-3 pieces. Those dart throws, those future values, those make more sense on his roster than they do on your roster. Add those in, even add another pick. That's fine. But the most important thing is to go to that manager and say, by trading this player who's about to get a elite or just near elite quarterback, is you're going to not score those points the rest of the season, which could mean you're going to get Bijan. So no matter what value you get for Njoku, you're going to at least be able to get Bijan out of it as well, which is the main goal here. So that's exactly what I would try to do. And just make sure you're securing your roster so that you can, if anything were to happen to Kelsey, or, if they were to, I mean, it's less likely with only one team getting the bye in the NFL these days with resting and whatnot. But, if a team's going to be a 2 or a 3 seed, it doesn't really much matter. So sometimes they're not playing for much anyway in those last couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm trying to go after Tony Pollard and Rashad White from that second from the end team right away. They need to get rid of those
players as well. Yeah, anybody
Yeah.
scoring points, any of those players, and I would be willing to move any of my picks. I don't care about having my 23 first or second for next year. It doesn't matter with this roster. You're going to win this year, and then you want to put yourself in position to win next year. So I'd be fully willing to trade those picks at all costs.
The bad thing about it is they have Henry, Jacobs, Mixon, Aaron Jones. I mean, I don't know what.
It's buying a player. If you can buy a player that's going to hold their value or possibly even gain value for next season versus a rookie that we have no idea at this point, I'd rather take the proven player versus a 110 or 108, a 109, a 110. It doesn't matter to me. I'll take the proven player at this point that's going to hold that value. You can trade them later. You could trade them next year, trade them for a future pick, trade them in the rookie draft, whatever. Use them to package up whatever you want to do. But this is the time of year where I'm doing the opposite of getting those picks. I'm going to go ahead and send the picks, especially 23, and especially everyone that keeps thinking this 23 class is going to be crazy. Cool. You can have my picks. Give me the points. I want the championship.
Yeah, are you trading for Njoku or are you trading for Rashad White with that second round pick?
And all of them. I'm going for Njoku because she doesn't need the running backs. I just want to secure my tight end room because Waller's trash and he's not coming back this season. So Kelsey's really the only player she has there. And if she doesn't have him for any game, I want to make sure I have a legitimate backup.
It's funny. I kind of sort of like what I think John was saying. The other way I thought of going with mine, other than consolidating, is that she is so much in terms of players and potential starting lineup that I wouldn't hate actually selling one of the not low end, but low end starter type guys for a pick. Even though you were kind of saying the opposite there of sending a pick for a player, if you can get Juju is her wide, I think receiver 6 or something like that, or if
but her team's named after Juju, so she can't trade him.
She can't trade him. I would even be willing one of those if she can't get a Diggs or something with combining some of these guys, you want to trade whoever you call your running back 4 from those guys, which is Aaron Jones, Henry, Mixon. And,
I agree with that. Yeah,
if you can do that, and get a pick. If you can get a first plus or something for one of those guys, even though it's technically probably helping another playoff team because they're the only ones that are going to be buying that, I still think looking at that team, I'm still going to beat you anyway, and now I have a first round pick on top of it. So
yeah, and then you could package those picks and then go get.
And then you don't have to keep your pick. Well, I mean, she might in this specific scenario because her trade deadline is Sunday, but that's why you should not have trade deadlines.
Yes, that is why.
Do you think would you trade away Aaron Jones to JJ Baker to get Javonte Williams?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
This
is the type of roster I would do that trade. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. No doubt. All right. Well, that is the end of our show sheet. So that is the end of our show. Look at that. We did it all. We covered everything. An hour and a half. We're right on brand here. Look at that. Oh man, F&A, huh? And game's over. The Bills dominated. So what a great night. We didn't miss anything other than another crappy Patriots performance, which to be expected. I can't believe they're 6-6. To be honest with you, because it doesn't seem like they've scored any points this season.
Yeah.
Do you remember last year's scenario though, where even though they were almost in last place, they were in last place in the wild card, but if they won, they would have got the first round bye. It was a weird situation where out of all 9 teams, they would have had a bye kind of thing. It was such a weird scenario.
I remember that. Yeah.
That just doesn't seem right.
Deserve that.
No.
Even last year. Yeah.
No, definitely not. All right. Well, with that, another episode on the books. We appreciate all of our listeners here. It's been a good run, man. It's been a lot of fun. John, we appreciate you coming on. Again, listeners, submissions for your leagues without trade deadlines. Let's get them in here, and we'll knock some out over the next few weeks.
And for
Help
those
some
that
people
don't,
win some ships.
I was just gonna say, for those that don't know, if you want to submit, you can go to @Dynasty Junkies. It's our pinned tweet. Has our link tree in it, and on the link tree is the link to the Google form where you can submit your league.
Perfect. Look at that.
I got to ask about one trade before we leave. You guys mind doing
Do
one
it.
trade?
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
This is a big one, okay? So it's kind of a lot to swallow here. It's Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, and Jonathan Taylor getting shipped off.
Wow.
All right. Yeah. So that's
I can't wait to see what you're getting back.
No.
Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, George
No.
Kittle, 323 first, 223 seconds, and 223 thirds. So Mahomes, Jefferson, and Jonathan Taylor for Dak, Deshaun Watson, Kittle, 323 first. They're all like kind of like, they're not 101s kind of thing, but like 104, 105, 107 kind of thing. 223 seconds, which again are like 4 and 6, and 223 thirds.
Mahomes.
Man, you really love that. I mean, I love Mahomes too, but man, Justin Jefferson's the scariest part of this trade.
That's what I was just gonna say. I'm with Scott too, but it's Mahomes and Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson is just as big a deal to me in that trade as Mahomes is.
Right.
I don't care about the picks. I don't understand the philosophy of trading away elite players for lottery tickets that you're hoping can be elite players. I do not understand that. I've never understood it. I don't know why people do it.
But you're getting Watson back, who's not too far away from Mahomes. You're getting Dak as a second quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, value-wise, I understand it. Like, I don't think it's lopsided value-wise. I just have a strong opinion of I want the guys that I don't understand what I'm gaining. What is the upside? The upside is
Mahomes.
That I get a couple more players. Like, I don't know if I have nothing else on my roster.
Yeah, I guess the upside is that all 3 first turn into great players, and now you have like 5 or 6 really good players instead of 2 and a half elite players.
The points per game advantage that you have at those positions. I mean,
I agree with you. I'm just really trying to argue the other side, but I do
really
agree
hard
from value wise, it's fine. Like that's like a minimum like 7 or 8 first value there. I think.
Yeah. No, I mean that's fine.
That you're getting for those guys. Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be.
But yeah, I'm with you. I especially like you're talking like the elite, not just elite players. They're like arguably the top player. I mean, I know
two of the 5 top players in my opinion.
Yeah, but at their position, like you could argue Mahomes is the QB1 in Dynasty. I know some people would put Allen over, and you can argue Jefferson is the wide receiver one.
He's my one, which I've said from day one on the show. Number 1. Yep.
So yeah, I'll take the players, but I get it. More so than Scott does, even I think, but I would not do it. Yeah,
but we don't have just a trade on a piece of paper where we have no context. So why don't you add some context to it?
One side is obviously someone that's rebuilding, but still a pretty good team, and the other guy is like win right now. So there's going to obviously if you're a win right now team and you're adding Mahomes and Jefferson and a good running back in Jonathan Taylor, it's kind of like, how do you stop that trend?
I know we didn't even talk about Jonathan Taylor, who you could still argue is the RB1, by the way.
Yeah.
Like with
he's still top 3. Yeah. That's wild.
But yeah, even with if you're rebuilt, like, well, first of all, I can't believe they're that bad with those 3 players. I guess Taylor was hurt some of this year, but if you're rebuilding, I'm still fine keeping Patrick Mahomes and Justin Jefferson. So they're both going to be good for the next 10 years. So yeah.
You can't replace those guys. I made a mistake of trading away Justin Jefferson for Justin Fields and Tua a couple years ago, and then those guys I took too long to pan out. So I traded those 2 guys, the 2 quarterbacks away too. And I'm like, man, I wish I would. It's one of those things. The hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have just kept Jefferson. 3 or 4 games into his rookie year, I would have been so much better off at this point in time.
Yeah, but that's why we play the game.
That's why I don't play best ball, and I start lineups and I'm a jerk. But anyway,
No more lineups. Hashtag no more lineups.
All right, can I
That's
say
gonna
it?
be my new thing for 2023. But all right. Thank you to John for joining the show tonight. Thank you for Rocky for hosting with me. Thank you so much for the submission from our good friend Megan Benevento. And thanks for the homies in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. John, why don't you take us out of here?
John McGlynn 75 on a Twitter machine. I'm on there all day long saying nothing but garbage, but it's fun for me to do. So follow me, and it's great to follow. I think so anyway. Commissioner Evaluation Podcast. I do it every Tuesday night. It's a they have good guests on there. It's a great show. Got a co-host now, JT Orange, great guy, smart guy. I get smarter guys than myself to be on the shows. That way, it sounds good. That's what it's all about. And anybody else that listens to this show tonight, thanks for watching Dynasty Junkies, and Junkies out.